been a viewer since around lockdown in 2020, just recently became a patron. Thank you so much. They're fun. I'm always delayed on the questions. So like right now, you asked your question like an hour ago. So I'm way far behind. That's very normal, but I go through them in order. I get to everybody. And if you're in here week after week, I get to know you a little bit, your taste, some things like that. What are some of your favorite and least favorite director's cuts? Sometimes these are a little bit tricky because director's cuts became extended cuts became a marketing term in the DVD era. When DVDs were really popular and selling like crazy, it became very common for studios to use a director's cut or extended cut to sell a second DVD to people like me that would be like, oh, I want to see an extended cut. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know the difference between an extended cut and just an actual true director's cut. So some of the best ones would be Richard Donner's Superman 2, and one of the more interesting ones, simply because Richard Donner shot 70% of Superman 2 and then he was fired and was replaced, and they had to reshoot up to the point in time where over 50% of the movie was directed by the new director for the new director to get credit. So they're two very different versions of the same movie. Those are the director's cuts that are very interesting to me. So, and they finally released it when Superman Returns came out, and they had documentaries on everything they did and everything they had to do to get it completed. I love that that exists. Then, of course, Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't need to explain that one, but like that's a classic one right there. A lot of Ridley Scott's movies were greatly improved when he started tinkering with them. There was a bunch of studio interference on Blade Runner where they actually, in Harrison Ford's contract, he said, I will not do a voiceover. And then at the very end, the studio gave notes and test screenings or whatever, and they went, no, Harrison, you have to do voiceover. So they forced him to put voiceover into the movie, which he hated doing, and it was terrible, and it wasn't what anybody like Ridley Scott wanted to do, but it was just what the higher-ups demanded. And then the movie was, certain things in the cut. So he kept editing that one until just about 10 years ago, put out the final cut. And I haven't seen it yet, but Kingdom of Heaven is dramatically better in its extended version. I watched the movie while reading the Wikipedia summary. Sometimes I'll do that to like take notes and make sure I'm following along on plot points. And I was like following the movie much better than my wife was. And I paused and I realized the description on Wikipedia is the director's cut. So there are all these little sentences that were cut out of the movie. The sentences and the synopsis, the segment was cut out of the movie. So the movie didn't make any sense. And I'm reading it, I was like, oh, okay. And my wife's like, why did this person do this? I was, because his daughter was kidnapped. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no daughter in this movie. I was like, oh, that's the director's cut. So a bunch of Ridley Scott movies are kind of like that. Both Aliens and Terminator 2 are examples of versions where the director's cut, wouldn't say is better, but it's different. Oh, and The Abyss. There are ones where James Cameron made a version that is the tight studio version and the version that is the extended with all the stuff in their version for the true fans. They both exist and both are great experiences. Normally with them, if I just want to throw on a movie, I normally throw on the theatrical one because they just they are that slicker, faster moving blockbuster. But also, if I want a little bit more depth, the extended version. In particular, well, I mean, all three of them have a subplot that's basically cut out that's really important. Ripley's daughter in Aliens, The Abyss, kind of the whole alien subplot is basically dramatically changed. And then in Terminator, the nature of the learning computer, there's a whole subplot about what actually happens with that, and they simplified it to he's always learning, and they actually turned the switch on and they opened his head up. Linda Hamilton's twin sister shot a scene where they like mirrored each other, and so they changed a bunch of it. But some of the worst ones, I don't like worst, one that is a dramatic change but a difficult watch for me is Rocky vs. Drago, Rocky 4. It's an interesting novelty, but I would prefer if Stallone had just taken all these extra scenes, extra lines of dialogue and added them into the original version rather than totally recut the movie. So if you don't know what it is, he recut Rocky IV like 3 years ago, and it's literally top to bottom a recut of the movie. But it's not adding, it has 40 minutes of new footage in it, but it's the same length. So it's a whole bunch of alternative takes, alternative versions of a line of dialogue. And so you're watching the same thing, but it's just different, and the music cues are different. So it's like, for me, I've always equated it to like watching or listening to a song that's just, the instruments are out of sync with each other. It's just offbeat. And so you're watching it, waiting for a cut that doesn't happen. And then it cuts at a different moment in time and different music starts. It just always feels off, like you're out of sync with the movie that you're watching. That's an experience for me as someone that has watched the original one so many times. And I have the poster right here on my wall that you wouldn't have if you watched it for the first time, but that's one that comes to mind. But then there's a lot of them. I mentioned it to the very beginning. The bad ones, I'd say, are the ones that were just extended cuts. Unrated, the raunchy jokes they couldn't throw in the theater. Like they did that in the DVD era, the zeros, and they basically just throw a couple deleted scenes in there, an alternative joke that's maybe a little bit raunchier, but there's no additional artistic merit. This is not the director's version of the film or anything like that. Oh, one more good one, Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. Everyone says it's a better version of the film. There's nobody that says like you still might not like it, and because you don't like it, you would say you prefer the shorter one. But everyone says on a storytelling, editing, logic level, the Ultimate Edition is the better version of it. But to the marketing terms, there's a extended version of Suicide Squad, David Ayer's film. They put out a version that has like 13 extra minutes. It's not his director's cut. It's not the movie that he turned in, that they turned away and he re-edited. They just put out a movie with deleted scenes thrown into it. Those are the bad ones. Just non-artistic extended cuts. Throw stuff in there to sell more copies.
Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.